Well, hiya, BookTube. Bill Ruttenberg here with the Ruttenberg Library. Wanted to come to you with a reading update, a wrap up for December, whatever you want to call this. It's a just kind of a chit chat video on what I've been reading, what I'm reading right now, books that I got for Christmas, and yeah, I'm just pretty excited about how my reading went in the month of December. I thought it was it's been a really good month, a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I usually get some books done over break, but I've gotten a lot of them done. Of course, if you know me well enough, you've been to the channel long enough, you know I don't read just one book at a time. I tend to read, I'll have 10 or 12 different titles all going at one time. People call me nuts. My wife, my daughters, my fellow teachers at school, they all think I'm kind of nuts on how many books I can have going at one time. But it's just how I have found that's how I operate the best. I read one or two chapters and then switch books. One or two chapters, switch books. But anyway, that ends up leading to, it looks like I'm reading like a whole book in one day. If you're following me on Goodreads, and that's not what's happened. It's been over a span of days, but I've got a bunch of them all going at once, so I tend to get them. They get finished once a day or once every other day, and it ends up looking like a ton of books, and it's not always like that. But anyway, I wanted to share some of those titles with you. So first, let me get this stack out of the way. I wanted to show you some books I got for Christmas. I didn't get very many. I am currently on I am currently doing the Read What You Own challenge, where you're not supposed to be buying books. So these books were all, three of them that I'm going to show you are for Christmas. One of them, what my wife got me on today is our 23rd wedding anniversary, actually, and yesterday we had went out to eat, and she was looking for some books at the store, and she ended up getting that one for me. So these didn't count against me, because those were some of my caveats, some of my exceptions to the rules. But let me show you what I got. So this book was introduced to me, was it a month ago, by our public librarian here in town, and she had me read the copy from the library, and I absolutely loved it. It is a I don't even know if this is a middle grade. This is nuts. It's upper elementary maybe, but it's such a great story, and many of you have probably read it. And I have the movie cover version here, the new movie that's it's either coming out or it's out already. The Best Christmas Pageant Ever by Barbara Robinson. And so like I said, I have the movie cover there. Absolutely loved this book. It's actually on my, it's gonna, I believe, make my end of the year best books of the year that I read. And yeah, just a Christmas story about a poor family who goes to church, does the Christmas story at church, and learns a lot. We'll just say that. And it's a very touching story. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Highly recommend it. But I got that one, and it's an older book. My copy's new, but the actual original print was from the 70s sometime. This one comes from Harper. 1972 was the original publication date. Really good book, folks. Check that one out. The next book that I got, this one I got from my daughter, my daughter Crimson, and she got it for me. And you guys will all recognize this one, good old Forrest Gump by Winston Groom. Now, I like Winston Groom's writings. I've read some of his Civil War stuff. He's got one on Shiloh. He's got on the Battle of Shiloh. He's got one on the Battle of Vicksburg, and I have read the Vicksburg one. He's also got some World War One. Yeah, I have one by, what the heck is it called? I'm going to go blank on the name, but it's one of his World War One titles I have upstairs. Just haven't, or no, it's probably actually right behind me. Oh, somewhere. Yep, right there. A Storm in Flanders, that yellow colored one. But anyway, I like his writing, and of course I love Forrest Gump. Everybody loves Forrest Gump, and so I'm excited to see what he did with this, and of course the movie comes from this. But let's see, vintage books, and 1986 is when this was originally published. This is a 2012 copy, and I love vintage books. I don't know if you guys like vintage books. I absolutely love them. I love the texture and feel of the covers. I've been collecting the Agatha Christie stuff from vintage books, and got 2 of those coming in the mail, and I'll show those when I get them, when they get here. But yeah, and you guys know the story of Forrest Gump, don't you? I guess I could read. It's a real short paragraph. Says 6'6", 242 pounds, and possessed of a scant IQ of 70. Forrest Gump is the lovable, surprisingly savvy hero of this classic comic tale. His early life may seem inauspicious, but when the University of Alabama's football team drafts Forrest and makes him a star, it sets him on an unbelievable path that will transform him from Vietnam hero to world-class ping pong player, and from wrestler to entrepreneur. And now Forrest is telling all in a madcap romp through 3 decades of American history. And so I absolutely love that. Check that out. Never read the book, though. I've only watched the movie, so I'm excited to see. This next one, The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs, A New History of Their Lost World by Stephen Brusetti. Absolutely love this book. I read this book, was it earlier this year, I think I read it. Absolutely loved it. It's going to be in my best books of the year list. It definitely makes the list. But I had listened to it on audio because I didn't have the paper copy, and my wife got this one for me. She listened to me talk about it over and over and over again, and so ended up getting this one. It's also got lots of different pictures and stuff that go along with the text, so that I really like because I'm a visual learner, and so that's going to help me. And this will be a book I definitely will reread or read, because I guess I just listened to it the first time because I didn't have a copy of it. But got pictures throughout. The author also wrote the book The Rise and Reign of the Mammals, which I've never read. I've seen it at the bookstore, but I haven't read it. So kind of excited to see that. But anyway, this is just the new interpretations of what happened with the dinosaurs. It goes through some of the old interpretations and why the interpretations have changed. And the author does a good job of pointing out some of the early dinosaur historians and explaining different things. And I just really enjoyed it. I was a dinosaur nerd when I was a kid, and so I was real excited when I saw that. All right, and then the other one that I never, ever see at our bookstores. I see other books by this author, but never this one. This is from David Hackett Fisher, and it's Albian Seed, 4 British Folkways in America. And if you've never read David Hackett Fisher, you need to give him a try. I've read a few of his books, and I've loved every one of them. He did one on Paul Revere's Ride that was really good. He did one on Washington's Crossing the Delaware. Was it Washington's Crossing, I think is what it was called. It was really good, but I love the detail that he puts into his work. And when I was flipping through this, lots of footnotes. It's got some pictures and charts and family trees and maps and all kinds of stuff as you flip through it. Super excited to read that. It is a chunky monkey. It is 946 pages. So a March of the Mammoth, definitely. A possibility for March of the Mammoth. So that's what I got for Christmas. Now, what am I reading right now? I am reading Mr. Lincoln's T-Mails. I am going to try very, very hard to get this finished before the end of the year, before the end of the month. So I got a couple of days. I'm past halfway through it. I got 80 some pages left. I'm going to make a big effort in the morning to read. Well, I got to get at least half of it read. So I'm going to sit down and try to make an effort to get this one finished so that I can have it on my 2024 list. I don't want to carry it over to 2025. But it's, yeah, Mr. Lincoln's T-Mails, How Abraham Lincoln Used the Telegraph to Win the Civil War by Tom Wheeler. And it's exactly what the title says. It's how did he use the telegraph? Basically speeding up communication along the lines with the armies and stuff, and talks a lot about how the North had a huge advantage over the South in this respect. So that is one of the books that I am reading right now. I've also been partaking in, and I don't have these on the stacks because I've been doing them on audio because I just don't have the hard copy, but it's Eva Gates's Lighthouse Library Mysteries, and they're a cozy mystery. There's a murder at the lighthouse in every book, and I am on book 5, I think, maybe 6, 5 or 6. I can't remember what number it is, but really good books. They're just so, I mean, they're not going to win a Pulitzer or anything, but they are, cozy mysteries. Absolutely love them. And I should be finishing one of the one I'm working on right now. I should be finishing either tonight or tomorrow morning. I'm pretty close on that one. So throughout the month of December, what have I gotten finished? I have gotten quite the stack finished. Oh, goodness. So let me share these with you. So first of all, since it's December, I always make a list of books in December that I want to try to tackle. Some, Christmas type stories. Of course, I read John Grisham's Skipping Christmas. Absolutely loved it. Like always, sped right through it. I think did I read it? Oh, no, I didn't read this one in one day because I was reading it at school. And I always like to have a book at school when we're doing SSR. This was one that I read, so it took me a week to read it, only because, you can read that in a day and really a couple of hours, but we do it in those 20-minute segments at school, and so it took me, a few days just because of that. But it's the story of Luther Crank, right? Yes. Luther and Nora Crank, and their oldest daughter is going off to South America to work with the Peace Corps, and they're going to be at home by themselves. And Luther Crank decides, we're going to skip Christmas and go on a cruise. And in the process of doing this, we're going to save a boatload of money doing it and still get to have fun and take away all the headaches of the holidays with the decorating and the buying food and the, just all the stuff. We just got out of the holiday. You guys know what it's like. And basically, it's that misadventure. And if you look on the picture here, all of the neighbors are all very festive, and he's the only one on the block not being festive. And so really good story. It's got a very good message at the end. Highly recommend that. I read it I've done that for the last several years. I've read Skipping Christmas. I had never read Miracle on 34th Street by Valentine Davies. And I'd seen bits and pieces of the movie. I don't even think I'd seen the whole movie. I'd seen bits and pieces of the movie. It's something I'm going to try to find. I think I can find it on YouTube. But anyway, read that book. That was not a tug at your heart type book, but easy read, wasn't very hard. Enjoyed it, 117 pages, and it's all about the main character here. His name is, and I'm going blank on his name, Kris Kringle. Is that literally what his name? Yes, Kris Kringle, who is claiming he is Santa Claus, and of course everybody thinks he's nuts. And he's out to, not out to, I don't know necessarily out to prove to them that he is Santa Claus, but everything that he does in his everyday actions shows that he's Santa Claus, and it gets people thinking. And so they take him to court because they want to throw him in the loony bin. But real good story. And then so I had 6 books on the stack of what I wanted to get read, and the other 2 or 3 are up there on the shelf, but I got 3 of them. The other one was Jacob's Bell by John Snyder. Very good story. This is got a Hallmark feel to it. The the main character in the story, Jacob McCullum, is a alcoholic, and it has cost him his family, and it's cost him, a lot. He had a very successful business. He had a beautiful, loving wife, and 3 kids, and we get some tragedy that happens because of his drinking, and some really bad decision making. Anyway, he ends up living on the streets, and this is the story is all about him trying to make good with his kids, trying to come back and make a relationship with his children. And so it's got, like I said, a very Hallmark feel to it. I liked it. It is one that could easily fall into my every December read. So recommend that one, BookTube. Actually got that one at Dollar Tree. Yeah, that was one of the cheap ones I got. My Agatha Christie for this month was Halloween Party. I was a little bit late getting to it. I should have read that one during October, obviously. But Halloween Party, good story. Just a murder mystery with Hercule Poirot, and all set around Halloween time. That was a good one. Oh, kind of going through them fast here. Video. I don't want the video to be too long. So first of all, I had bought the book Salt, A World History by Mark Kurlansky. And I bought this over the summer. It was during, you guys, if you've been following the channel, you've noticed I've had a ton of summer book hauls. I bought a ton of books this summer, which is hence the reason I'm doing the Read What You Own challenge, because I need to. But this was one of those books that I had purchased. I had seen it in the teacher catalogs where you can order them for your class. And I'd always, found that, or thought that, that would be pretty interesting. Well, one of my students at school had gotten it out of the school library and had been reading it. And I started scratching my head and I'm like, why am I not reading that? I've got it. I've always wanted to. Why not? And so I got that with a big purpose behind it being, I wanted to have that conversation with my student in class. So this was good. It just took you through a history of the world and its use in salt and the importance of salt and how it was very, very, very valuable in the beginnings when the trade routes were going. It was one of the main commodities that got traded around the world, all the way up into the current day with trade networks that have been built. Salt still remains an important one. And then it got into, just the variations of the different types of salts and that kind of stuff. So good book. Highly recommend it. Here is The Big Sky. It's a Western by A.B. Guthrie Jr. It was a kind of a big Western, but all about a kid who gets into, Boone Caudill. Is that his name? Can't remember. It was a while back since I read this. But Boone, he gets in an argument with his dad, runs away from home, basically. His dad's trying to tell him what to do. Classic, growing up story. And so he goes out west to find his way, and he gets heavily involved in the fur trapping business, and we get stories with the Native Americans, and it's a historical fiction. I mean, it's a Western, but it's got some historical fiction to it where, we see him meeting up with big name people and big name events, and interesting story. And there is a second one, a part 2 in this story, which The Way West. Yeah, and that one he got the Pulitzer for, The Way West, and that's the second volume of this. And I don't know if I'm going to pick it up or not. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe this summer. Maybe June on the Range. Hey, there we go. All right. So next one is The Last Boy, Mickey Mantle and the End of America's Childhood by Jane Levy. Basic biography about Mickey Mantle. And of course she uses throughout the whole story, the theme that runs through it is his problem, his issues with alcoholism and how that, affected his life. And it had huge effects on his life. And especially heading into the end of his life. It's going to be what really leads to his death. And yeah, Mickey Mantle, he was one of America's favorite center fielders, and could have done huge things if he wouldn't have tore his knee up in his very first season. I mean, he still did huge things despite that. So you always get the what if question with Mickey Mantle, and so Jane Levy had met Mickey Mantle and knew him, and did personal interviews and everything, and got to know the man intimately, and she shares that in the book. It's a good story. All right, one of my last ones that I finished is An Uncommon Woman, The Life of Lydia Hamilton Smith. And this is by Mark Kelly. I buddy read this with Peg over at the History Shelf. I think she may be still finishing it, so I don't want to say too much. I got to leave, speaking of that, I got to leave my last message for her. So Peg, it's coming soon, probably tonight. But Mark Kelly tells the story of Lydia Hamilton Smith, who was the housekeeper and what a lot of people believe the love interest of hang on a second, I'm going blank. Wow, I can't even find his name on the back there. Stevens, Thaddeus Stevens, sorry. Yeah, so this is like during the antebellum. A lot of it takes place during the antebellum and during the Civil War time period, and Thaddeus Stevens plays a huge role in her life. And the biography is it's interesting, probably more of a local history. That's what I'm going to call it, is probably more of a local history. But it does tell a important story during an important time period in American history when, relationships between black women and white men it obviously happened, but it was not looked highly upon. And they were not married, but they lived together for a long time, and a lot of people thought that was basically their relationship, minus the paperwork. And just an amazing story of a woman who comes a long ways for being able to own property and just make a name for herself. Everybody recognized who she was. She was in a lot of newspapers. So anyway, like I said, pretty good story. One of the last ones I finished. Big, thick monster of a book. The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. Very good story, all about Edmond Dantes, who comes back home from sailing out on the ocean. He works on a boat and trades goods and stuff, and comes back and gets caught up in a issue with Napoleon. Napoleon's trying to come back to power, and he gets arrested, thrown in jail, and he's completely innocent. I mean, he was carrying a letter, yes, but he had nothing to do with conspiracy to bring back Napoleon Bonaparte. But anyway, he gets blamed for it, spends, I think it was 14 years in prison, ends up breaking out, and then the one that ratted on him about the letter and got him arrested and everything was his best friend. And then, of course, he's not a police chief. That's not the right title. It's slipping my mind. What do you call him? The one who does the trials, the court stuff. The two and him and the best friend end up getting him thrown in jail, and they work together to get rich off of this scheme. And so basically the whole story is, he was in love with a woman, ends up not being able to love her because he's in prison. She ends up marrying the best friend, and there's a whole bunch of twists in the plot, and it's a story of revenge. But oh my goodness, it's such a good story, and highly, highly recommended. I watched the movie, the 2002 movie, when it first came out way back in the day. Loved the movie. Bought the book, but it was an abridged version, and I read it, absolutely loved it. And then I was watching BookTube, and I noticed somebody say, "Hey, we're going to do a read along," and they put something this thick up there, and I was like, "Holy cow, what is that?" And then I realized I've never read the full book, and so I have now read it. Now, I would say BookTube, yeah, it was worth reading, don't get me wrong, but it's extremely confusing. A lot of different names, all French names, or most of them are French names anyway, and you got characters going by multiple names, and it's a little bit confusing to follow, but it was really good. I would say you could probably read an abridged version and get away with it and do all right, but if you have any inkling to read it, go for it, because it is really, really good. It's one of the best books I read all year. It won't be on my end of the year list just because I had read the abridged version, so I'm not going to put rereads on there, and so I kind of count it as a reread. Another one of the books that were one of the last ones I finished, Katherine the Great, Portrait of a Woman by Robert K. Massey. Loved this book. I thought this one was easier to follow than the Peter the Great book. I liked the Peter the Great book, lots of detail and everything, but this one was way more interesting, kept my attention way more than the other one did. And yeah, it's all about Catherine the Great and her reign in Russia. I don't really know what to tell you about it other than it's about her reign. And if you like soap opera type stuff with different lovers and intrigue on, should we have this person murdered or not, and this is your story, because she had a lot of lovers, and Robert K. Massey likes to tell you about them. I also, another book, and I had this one on audio. So Robert K. Massey, he wrote 4 volumes on the czars of Russia, and I have 3 of the 4. The next one in line, number 3, is Nicholas and Alexandra. But I was not ready to read that one because I wanted to get it done before the end of the year. I didn't want it to carry over, so I'll probably do that one next year. So I went ahead and skipped the volume 4, but I did the audio on that one because I don't own a hard copy of it. And it was the Romanoffs, the final chapter. And if you know anything about the Russian history, there was always the myth that Anastasia, the daughter of Nicholas II, had escaped the assassination and lived. And of course, there's been many people who have claimed to be her, but back early on, how do you prove it's not her? How do you prove that she's dead? Well, in the last 30, 40 years, we've had lots of DNA improvements with DNA research, and the whole book, the Romanoffs, the final chapter, is all about talking about the death and then the studies of the DNA, the science behind everything, and then tracking down all those people who claimed to be Anastasia and disproving it, basically. So really good book. I thought it was, the science stuff went over my head. I never fully understand that stuff, but I've still found it very, very fascinating. But yeah, there's been some other books here and there. I just didn't have them stacked up. But that's the bulk of what I've been reading in December. Yeah, I've got plans. I put out my TBR video for Historathon. I've got some other books that I would like to read. I'm going to put some other videos out talking about those for this next year, maybe some reading plans all together. I got a best of 2024 video coming soon. I got to get it finished, getting it filmed, but yeah, I plan on getting that out there. So that's what's going on here at the Ruttenberg Library. What's going on in your world? What are you reading? What's your best book of 2024? Let me know down in the comments section. Would love to hear from you. So, BookTube, until next time, happy reading.